The new Chorus Shapeshifter paddle just launched, and I've been hands-on with this paddle for over a month now. I've hit drives, serves, dinks, drops, and everything in between. So in this video, we're gonna dive deep into the new Shapeshifter, how it plays, what's changed, and who this paddle is made for. And to make things even better, I've partnered up with Chorus to give one of you a brand new Shapeshifter of your choice. So stick around to find out how to win. As always, Chorus did send me this paddle, but they aren't paying me anything. I'm not required to make a review, and they don't get any input on this video. And if you want to get a discount on the new Chorus Shapeshifter, you can use the code Pickleball Blast for 10% off while also helping this channel. The Chorus Shapeshifter is the version 2, if you will, of the original Shapeshifter, and it comes from Chorus Pickleball, which has a few great paddles in their collection, and recently launched the Chorus Fire, which is their power paddle just before this. The Shapeshifter builds on what I believe was probably their most well-known paddle, with some subtle changes throughout. It comes in 3 new Chorus shapes, the standard SX, hybrid HX, and elongated EX, and is a plush feeling all-core paddle that definitely leans towards control. And I would say it's probably one of the safest and easiest paddles to just pick up and play with, which we'll talk about a bit more later. My preferred shape for this paddle was the EX, which is an elongated thermoform paddle that features a 3D 18K carbon triaxial weave face that plays a big role in the feel of this paddle. It has a 16mm core thickness and an advertised static weight of 7.9 ounces. The advertised swing weight is 118, twist weight of 6.3, grip length of 5.6 inches, and circumference of 4.25 inches. And all of this is priced at $175, which is actually lower than the original Shapeshifter, and comes down to around $157 after using the code Pickleball Blast. And if you'd like to pause to see the differences between shapes, here you can see the basic stats for the Shapeshifter HX, and now for the SX. Now we normally jump into the most important aspects of a paddle by category here, and we will still get to that, but I think it makes sense to first talk about the changes between the original Shapeshifter and this new version. The original Shapeshifter really got high praise by a lot of people. I know many found it very easy to play with, and I'm pretty sure it was John Q's main paddle for a little bit. So building on that was not going to be an easy task because on one hand, you need to make a paddle that shows improvements right throughout it, but you can't spoil what people loved about the original version to begin with. And I do think that it's safe to say that Matt, the owner of Chorus, did a really good job with this. He set out to make this new Shapeshifter an iterative upgrade, and I think he accomplished that. The first major difference that you'll notice is that you can now get the Shapeshifter in 3 different shapes, which helps to fit your game better. Visually, they look pretty similar. You will notice the new version loses the curved arrow top, and I had the original in orange, but that's mostly everything that you notice just by looking at it. However, let's dive into a few small changes that you may not see, but would probably feel. First, they use a denser foam injected into the perimeter. This helps with the stability, forgiveness, and feel of this paddle. In the layup of the face of the paddle, they used a stronger fiberglass layer and reinforced carbon fiber layer. The fiberglass lends itself to a little more pop and power when you access that layer, and the carbon fiber gives the paddle a bit better durability. And finally, they did a total redesign on the handle of the new Shapeshifter, which I think was a welcome change, as the original Shapeshifter handle just never really quite felt right in my hands due to the shape. But this new handle feels great. And while I think you can definitely feel these changes hitting the older and newer versions side by side, it is important to note that the changes, while nice in my opinion, are not huge groundbreaking changes. This paddle feels different and better than the original Shapeshifter, but it still feels like a Shapeshifter. So if you didn't like the original version, as the name kind of implies, this is in many ways a very similar paddle. But if you love the original or are looking for a paddle that is incredibly easy to pick up and play well with, then this deserves some attention. With the differences out of the way, let's dive deep into the main categories that I consider with a new paddle, starting with power. And this is the category we typically start with, but is actually one of the categories where the Shapeshifter kind of lacks. If you're looking for a paddle with a bunch of power, this probably isn't what you're after. But it's also not supposed to be that, which is okay. I generate a lot of my own power, and I felt like the power was average, maybe a little below average on most shots, but where I really noticed it was on my putaways. When playing with the SX or HX, I just did not have the power that I wanted there, with many of those shots getting returned to me when they should have ended the point. I found better results with the EX version, which is why that ultimately became my preferred shape. But even with the EX shape, don't expect this to feel like a power paddle or anything like that. However, one interesting thing we saw with the Chorus Fire launch was that they intentionally launched these paddles pretty light, allowing you to add weight to the paddle to really dial it in. And while the Shapeshifter is not quite as light, there is definitely still some room to weight it up a bit and add more to the power side if you'd like. On the flip side of that, where this paddle really shines is pretty much every other category like control. I've mentioned a couple times how easy and safe this paddle feels, and that has a lot to do with the control and feel of the paddle, as well as the large, generous sweet spot. Everything in the soft game, dinks, drops, resets, etc. felt effortless. I loved the incredibly plush feel of the paddle, and I felt like a reset machine on the court. I was rarely popping anything up and felt like I could place my dinks and drops really well, and the new version felt significantly more soft to me than the original Shapeshifter in its touch and feel. The spin of this paddle is also excellent, and it definitely feels like one of the more spinny paddles that I've played with recently. I felt like I could really shape all of my shots and pretty much put a good amount of any type of spin I wanted on almost any shot. The dwell time felt crazy long on this paddle, which plays a big role in that spin, and a lot of that, as well as the touch and control, can be attributed to that 3D 18K triaxial weave on the face of this paddle. This weave specifically lends itself to a plush, controllable feel, and also is supposed to provide great spin that isn't impacted by the direction it hits the paddle. The speed of this paddle felt average to me, meaning really that the swing weights are around where I would expect them to be with each shape. It didn't feel slow at the net by any means, but also didn't feel, exceptionally fast. Basically, it didn't stand out one way or another. On to pop, and this is not a poppy paddle. The layer of fiberglass that is included in the layup is the very bottom layer, which just isn't going to be accessed with every shot that you take. What this does is gives you a super soft, plush feel with most of your shots, but a little extra pop when taking a full swing and getting that fiberglass to react. I'm somebody who generally enjoys poppy paddles, and while you don't feel the pop as much in the Shapeshifter, I can appreciate that feel is not for everyone, and that lack of pop on most shots is what keeps this paddle so safe for the soft game. And visually, this is a pretty standard design with a few pops of color here and there, though I believe all three shapes come in either black or white, which does let you cater a little bit to your preferences. And before we go any further, I've partnered up with Chorus Pickleball to give one of you a Shapeshifter SX, HX, or EX. All you have to do is follow the link down below in the description of this video, where you can earn entries by subscribing to this channel, following me on Instagram, sending the giveaway off to friends, and other things. Many thanks to Chorus for making this happen. I'm excited to get one of these paddles into your hands. Now let's talk about who this paddle is for and who it probably isn't for. The Chorus Shapeshifter is a control-leaning paddle that gives you a soft, plush feel, helping you in the control aspect of your game. This paddle is going to be for people who lean more towards a control game, or who can generate a lot of power on their own, but maybe find themselves lacking when slowing down the game. It's also going to be a good fit for those who want top tier spin available in all aspects of the game. And lastly, for those who prefer to play with a very forgiving and consistent paddle. This makes it a great option, not only for those who have played the game for a long time, but also for those who are newer to the game. On the flip side, if you are generally a more aggressive player who prefers to hit hard and not tap into the softer side of your game, you maybe should be using a paddle like this to work on the control side of things, but this is probably not going to fit your game style as it is. Similarly, if you're somebody who needs help generating power, this paddle isn't going to do that for you. Overall, I think the Chorus Shapeshifter delivers a great paddle that will work well for a lot of people, and I think they accomplished their goal of upgrading the original version of the Shapeshifter. I like that the paddle now comes in multiple shapes to allow you to fit to your game even better, and I think that it will make especially those who focus on the softer control side of the game incredibly happy. And it would be a great fit for a beginner or intermediate player who wants a large sweet spot, a lot of forgiveness, and doesn't need additional power. I hope you found this helpful. Let me know if you have any questions down below in the comments. Make sure you're subscribed and enter the giveaway to win a Shapeshifter, and I'll see you in the next video.